Merry meet Marlin. Annie here. I have a story I think you will enjoy. It's about encountering someone else's construct during the dream time. I do believe there have been many instances in life when that's happened to me. And very often it's been folks I felt intimately connected to, but it's also happened that I've stumbled across things that I didn't know the person yet or didn't know them well. So there's been a variety of experiences, most of them a little too personal to actually share. So I guess there's something to the power of those experiences being very intimate and very personal sometimes. But the one I'd like to share with you is when I was young, in my 20s, and studying with my first priest, I was paired with a young man who, like me, was in the process of his dedication period before we were initiated. It was a very powerful time of life for both he and I, and part of the power of that time was the relationship that grew between the two of us. We were important to each other. And in the process of our relatively early studies, we worked with our priest to develop a sacred place that was just ours, not of this world, of the other side, in the ether, in the dream world, but an intentional creation where step by step we created the place that we would start our explorations of the other worlds and the underworld from, and the place that we would return to. Now, the place was held private. When it had arrived at a certain level of sophistication, we did share it with our teacher, but privately, not with the two of us together in the room, because the place was supposed to be that kind of an intimate environment, very personal, just for the one person. And I remember we both struggled with it a bit at first, but that we both got to where there was a place that was just our most glorious, fantastic place of power, where we could begin and end journeys, and it worked very well for us. And indeed, we were not permitted to move on to our next level of training without having that as part of our individual experience. He and I shared everything during that year and a half that we studied getting ready for our first degree initiation, except that place, because we had been told we were not permitted to. It had to be kept that private. I had reason to think of him, a little over a year ago, when I was in email conversations with a new friend overseas who was talking about working partners and our early magic partners and how it might have been in those days. We had shared some similar experiences when we were younger. And it made me think of him. He was in my thoughts. I probably lost track of him, I'd say by the time I was 30. So you're talking, we're sneaking up on 30 years ago that I lost track of him. And I actually don't think he had a happy life. And I think there was a sad ending to it. It's just something I always felt all my life. So I was thinking about him in meditation one night, and then when I dreamed later that night, I very specifically arrived at a particular setting, a particular place. And I knew in my heart of hearts that it was his place, the place he had constructed. Just that instinctual, deep feeling. And in the morning when I thought about it, I thought, okay, logically I was thinking of him before I went to sleep and thinking about those days, and in a bittersweet kind of a way. And of course he would be on my mind, and of course I would convince myself that I had visited some place that was very special to him. But it happened again the next night. And I just knew it was his place. So I left something there for him. I just needed to. I actually thought doing it, which was very aware dreaming, that I needed to make a token of letting him know that I was still thinking of him after all these years. And I wrote him a note sitting in his place. I wrote him a note and left it there. And I never could quite convince myself one way or the other if I had just come up with this on my own because of thinking about those days and thinking about him and how special he was, or if indeed I had visited the place he had created when we were young. And then, about a week after that, I felt the need to go back to that place. And he was there. I'm going to try not to cry, but he's no longer of this world, and I had that confirmed to me there. Because not only was I in his place of construct, but he was visiting me from the other side. And I just thought you'd enjoy hearing that story. It's fresh in my mind because it hasn't been too awfully long ago that it happened. It hasn't happened since. I wanted it to happen since. I really wanted it to happen since. And it didn't. I've even been in my construct, the place I go to between the worlds, which I have created as my safe haven, and made it known just by sending it out that he was welcome there. But it's not going to ever happen again. I know that. But I absolutely believed that I found his ethereal home, and that even for that short time later, he found me there. So like all things beautiful and magical and mysterious, it'd ruin the whole thing if I tried to explain it. But it happened. And it really fits into what you were talking about with, especially in the dream world, being able to, for whatever reason, more successfully experience the construct of others. I thought you might like to hear that story. It brought me great comfort. And if I were logical and tried to analyze it, I'd be thinking that's what it was meant to do, and I made that for myself. But that is not what happened. I know that I found his place, and I know he found me there. I know I'll never try and return again, although you can't blame me if when I'm in my place I don't occasionally now send out that he is always welcome to visit me there.